Hello, Space Pilot Mr. Cool Guy here. For today, for this transmission, I'll take a little break from around the facts. Alright, now, I mentioned before, right, how I had started trying these different foods that the Grelzons eat. So I figured, okay, well, then talk a bit more about that. Right? Might as well. I mean, it could take a few months for me to arrive at my destination, so, I've got plenty of time. Might as well talk about some of the things around the ship. But yes, some foods I've tried that the Grelzons eat. They are, quite interesting foods. Oh, I might as well talk about how they make them. Yes, they make them using a food-o-matic. Well, it's basically what it is. It's basically a food-o-matic-esque thing. No, you see, what they actually called is the food quantumizer. Or was it atomizer? It sounded very sciencey. It was like food. Oh yes, they call it a real simple name. It was the food instant creation device. That's right. It instantly creates whatever food you want. Now, you're gonna say, or you're gonna ask, but how is that possible? How does it instantly create food that you want? What goes into it? What makes it work? What makes the food appear? Well, it's simple, really. Well, okay, maybe not that simple. Maybe not real simple, I should say. No, you see, what you do is you come up to the machine, right? You basically tell it what you want, and it instantly creates it. It takes the atoms and forms them into whatever food you wish to have. For instance, I've seen them and I've tried stuff like quantum puffs. Yes, quantum puffs. It's a cereal-like food that constantly shifts between flavors and textures depending on the eater's mood. That's right, food that changes based on your emotion. Yep. One bite might taste like sweet nebula honey, the next like spicy asteroid dust. No, the taste of spicy asteroid dust is not as pleasant as you'd think. The sweet nebula honey, that is delicious. Ooh. But yes, your emotions affect its taste. Like when you're sad, it tastes like frozen space icicles. Or, yes, a bit salty too. Sort of like the frozen space tears or something. Yes. Now, no cereal is complete without a liquid to go in it. So, they have their own form of milk. Right? It comes from a space cow. Yes, space cow milk. Now I know, you're probably thinking, ooh, what kind of alien drink are we getting? It's from a space cow. Apparently, it's much commonplace to have a variation of cow out here. Yes, they had heard about milk. I wanted to try it. Apparently it tasted so good that they created space cows. Yes, cows from space. I'm calling them space cows. It seems like a fitting name, don't you think? They're, they call them the milk producers. Yes, that's what they call it. Because they produce the delicious tasting milk. Now, what's different about the space cows? Besides the fact that they're cows in space or from a very distant alien planet. Well, what makes these cows so different is they can float. That's right, flying cows. Well, they don't really fly per se, but it is easy to milk them, right? Because they can make themselves float a bit off the ground, like suspend themselves in air of sorts, to make it easier to milk them, for one thing. Other thing is that they're purple and green. That's right, they're half green and half purple. It's not just like any usual shade of green or purple you'd see on like clothing or shoes. It's a very specific shade. Like they told me, one of the criminals told me. It's not just any old random shade of green or purple. It's a very specific shade, like they went and checked the color and narrowed it down to a specific shade. That's how detailed they were. They wanted to know the specific shade instead of saying, oh, it's a shade of light purple or a shade of dark green. They wanted to know the specific name of the shade. It's nuts. But yeah. So yeah, they have space milk in their quantum puffs. Another thing the Grelzons eat is glow moss tendrils. Yes, you heard that right, glow moss tendrils. They're a bioluminescent noodle-like plant that wriggles slightly on the plate. Yes, you heard me right. It wriggles slightly on the plate, so it's sorta alive. Now bear with me. It's often served in a bubbling plasma broth that tastes different depending on the planetary phase. And yes, they have food that's affected by the planetary phase. You know, because it affects the ingredients and stuff, the molecules and all that in it. So, yes, it can taste different, much like the quantum puffs change with your emotion, this changes with the planetary phase. So you don't have as much control over how it's gonna taste. It just all depends on when you make it. Right? I gotta say, the point in time when I had it was interesting. Yes. Because apparently, when you make it, it's just a slight key factor. Because it also depends on when you harvest said ingredients that determine its taste. Right? So when you harvest it determines its starting taste. Because the planetary phases shift, it can start to affect the taste and change it. Now, if you take those ingredients and make it as soon as they're set in the next planetary phase, well then the taste has completely changed. If you do it somewhere in the middle, as it's starting to change, like halfway through to the next cycle, and it's halfway getting out of the current cycle, it's sort of a combo taste. It makes a taste that's a mixture of sorts. But yes, it's quite interesting, and plasma broth is completely safe for humans to eat. Or at least it was safe for me to eat. No, it did not burn any holes in me or do anything bad. Well, yeah, who would have thought? Plasma broth? Pretty good. Very nutritious too. And yes, I did have my doubts at first. I was worried when they said plasma broth. I was like, plasma broth? I don't know, man. Like, really? Are you sure that's safe to eat? I mean, plasma broth, isn't plasma dangerous? Depending on how you use it? And they said, no. This is refined plasma. It's edible plasma, essentially. Oh. Huh. How do you refine the plasma to make it edible? You see, we put it through a refiner. What this refiner does is take certain elements of the plasma, the elements of it that would make it dangerous to eat, and it removes it. So that way we can enjoy a delicious plasma broth with some glow moss tendrils. Oh, that's pretty interesting. Right. Now, they do have fruits. Yes. For instance, one of them is a chrono fruit. It's a fruit that ages backwards. Yes, unlike our fruit, which ages forwards, this one ages backwards. You see, when it is picked from the tree, it's overripe, but the longer you wait, the fresher it gets. Oh yes, Grelzons just seem to love the thrill of eating it at just the right time. Yes, that's right, they have a specific time of when it tastes the best, when it's the freshest. Now, I know you're gonna ask me, if it ages backwards, if it starts out overripe, then how do you grow it? Because that means it wouldn't start off as a seed. Well, it's kinda hard to explain. I couldn't really understand it at first either, because apparently once you eat said apple, you have to take the core right? And then they put it in a duplicator. And they put it in the soil. And it grows into an overripe apple tree, right? Overripe apple. It grows into an overripe apple tree. A tree filled with overripe apples, because it's like a core. Instead of taking seeds, you take the core. Because usually, once you're done with an apple, you'll take the core and throw it out, and the core will, become rotten and overripe. Like, huh. But wouldn't that mean the core needs to age forwards? But no, apparently it just starts over, just like that. It's, of course I thought, if you're duplicating it, wouldn't it be slightly different from the previous apple? But no, apparently it's the same apple. Not a slight difference. It's amazing. I mean, they don't even have to deal with world hunger because of the food machine. The fact that you could duplicate the food is crazy. Now, they do have snacks too. Yes, one such snack is a voltaic crunchers. Yes. Now, when you hear that, you probably think of a chip or something crunchy. Well, you see, voltaic crunchers are electrically charged insectoid snacks that give a slight sap with every bite. Yeah, it's quite a shocker. It's a favorite among hyperactive Grelzons who need an extra energy boost. Oh yes. Gotta keep up that energy. And yes, I did say insectoid snacks, and no, it's not as gross as you may think. I'll admit, it was pretty good. Didn't taste as bad as I thought it would. Now, I said it was an electrically charged insectoid snack. So basically, what they do is they'll put it inside a machine that generates electricity, and they'll charge it up, making it electrified of sorts. And yes, it's safe to touch. Well, I had to put on some safety gloves so I wouldn't shock myself while holding it, but they were able to hold it without gloves, and they were just fine. But yes, that's how it gets you the slight sap with every bite. And what it does is it goes into your body and sort of gives it a recharge, like a boost to your system. It electrifies you, but in a non-harmful way. I mean, I did feel a slight effect to it. It was a bit much at first for me to handle. I had to get used to it. But, I eventually adapted to its electrifying taste. Yeah. They do have a sort of sweet treat, or a dessert of sorts. Yes. Or, well, it's more of a jam, really. That's, of the dessert category. It's called the Void Jelly. Yeah, I know. You can eat the void? Yes, yes. Well, sort of. You see, the void jelly is a dark, shimmering, gelatinous dessert that absorbs nearby light. It makes everything taste slightly unreal for a few minutes after eating. And no, the dessert is not like some sort of drug, you could say. It just sounds like that from the way I described it. No, it just makes everything feel different. Because it's like eating a void of sorts. You know, it absorbs light. Like a black hole. Or a void. Hence the name void jelly. So things are gonna taste weird for a bit as the after effects of eating a void jelly goes away. But don't worry, it is perfectly safe. They assured me it was safe. It's not anything dangerous. Now, I did ask them, so is it like made from a void, or does it come from a void of sorts? And they said a tiny bit of it is made from like void particles, just a tiny bit. And so I asked them, but if it has some void particles in it, how exactly is it not dangerous? Because wouldn't it like tear you apart from the inside out? He said, no, 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 no. It's all fine and stuff. Right, because of the ingredients they mixed it with, it sort of dilutes the effects of the void particles. So that way it can't tear you apart from the inside out. Right? So yes, it's perfectly safe to eat. Now, another fruit I tried was one called a plasma pod. Yes. Yes, yes. A fruit called plasma pod. Now, plasma pods are small, spiky fruit that explodes into a tasty, harmless plasma mist when cracked open. Grelzons tend to eat them mid-air for the full effect. Yes, I did say that they eat them mid-air because of the harmless plasma mist. Yes, apparently it tastes the best when in mid-air. Sort of like the chrono fruit that ages backwards. Yes, yes. It was interesting eating in midair, right? They put this little device around me to help me, be suspended in midair. It's like an anti-gravitational belt of sorts. And I gotta say, I tried this plasma mist and the fruit. It tastes good. Now, I tried a bit of the fruit on the ground just to compare, because I had my doubts. I mean, I know, after seeing the chrono fruit and the void jelly, or the glow-moss tendrils and stuff, you think I wouldn't doubt it. But this was different. It tasting better in midair. Like you have to be in air for it to taste better. And yeah, it did. It blew my mind how that was possible. But then I reminded myself, I'm on an alien cargo ship. Of course it's gonna be possible. This is a different species. They're gonna be capable of things that us humans aren't necessarily capable of at the moment. So yeah, it was, yeah, you'd have to try these things if you ever make it out here. Yeah, but they do have another living food. Yes, they have more than one type of living food. They're called fizzlings. They're tiny living bubble-like creatures that pop in your mouth. So like, oh, it was a classic. Right, the pop rocks, yes. Those things would pop in your mouth, right? You know, sort of like firecrackers almost. But yes, anyways, these fizzlings pop in your mouth, releasing bursts of unpredictable flavors like molten caramel, sour stardust, or cool comet ice. There's some interesting flavors. And no, molten caramel is not hot enough to burn your mouth off, to not burn you alive. It just tastes like it would be. So yeah, sour stardust wasn't that bad either. It didn't taste like actual dust. It was sour. And cool comet ice, oof. Felt refreshing. It was a refreshing taste. Yes. It felt a bit funny, a little pop in my mouth. Oh, it was unexpected. Yes. Now, they do have vegetables as well, or vegetables of sorts. See, they have these things called gravity beans. Yes, they're beans that alter their weight unpredictably. See, one moment they're light as air, the next they drop like a black hole. Grelzons tend to use them in high-stakes eating competitions. And yeah, it is high stakes for the fact that one moment you could be putting a bean in your mouth as light as air, and the next, that bean could suddenly drop like a black hole. That's a very heavy bean. So yeah, you want to be real careful when eating them. Cause yeah, if that bean drops like a black hole as it slides down into your stomach, that's gonna make a very big splash. And all that acid in your stomach is gonna come straight up. It's not gonna be pleasant. They warned me of that. So that's why they made sure to check every bean just to be careful before eating it. And they know it alters its weight unpredictably, so you never know when it can change weight. But they make sure to check the weight before eating it just to ensure that at that moment it is safe to eat. Right? That thing could be used as a lethal weapon. Yes, that's why they had to create sort of like an armor of sorts. It's sort of like an attachment to make their body more sturdy, because people would use that as a lethal weapon, or I should say different species, different types of aliens and stuff would use that as a lethal weapon. They'd wait till it was about to alter the weight. They had found a way to determine how you could tell whether it would turn to the weight of a black hole, right? They'd be holding it above their victim, right? And just as it was about to change to the weight of a black hole, they'd let go. And it would drop straight on to the poor fool down below that didn't even know what was about to hit them. It was instant death. It was not a pretty sight. It was not fun. No. So and now they can withstand being hit by a being that weighs as much as a black hole. So that way, no one else has to die from a gravity bead. What a way to go, right? Someone asks you, so how'd you die? I died from a bean. Bean? Well, that's some way to go. Man, who knew wings could be so deadly, right? Now, they do have another spreadable, another type of food that you can spread on other certain types of food. Yes, it's called cosmic sludge. Yes, you see, cosmic sludge is a thick, gooey spread made from fermented asteroid algae. It does smell awful, but is considered a delicacy with an intense umami explosion. Yes. Ooh. It is a delicacy to the Grelzons. I mean, they did fair warn me it would smell quite awful, but it was worth trying. So I reluctantly tried it. They gave me a little plug to put on my nose, which blocks out all smells. Or at least that's what I thought it did. What it did was put a smell through my nose that was quite pleasant, so my mind would be thinking about that. I couldn't smell the cosmic sludge. No, I had a different smell. Yes, it was quite pleasant. I asked them what the smell was, and they told me it was the smell of the plants of Nexora. Oh, a beautiful smell. But yes, as for the taste, it was quite something. I mean, I certainly was not expecting it at all. Like, yeah, that is just, man, it's an experience, right? It is. Yeah. When they said it had an intense umami explosion, I had to ask what it was because I wasn't sure if they had their own version of umami or something, right? And after explaining it, I found out it's just like ours. Well, it's a combination, right? They have their own special types of mushrooms and tomatoes and meats, you know, and some ocean plants mixed in there. It was quite an intense flavor explosion. Man, when it kicked in, I was blown away. Oh, man. Oh. Now, they do have rings, outside of space milk. This one's called Nebula Nectar. It's a drink that changes color and temperature mid-sip, ranging from frosty cold to lava hot, depending on how you swirl it. So yeah, you gotta be real careful how you swirl it, 'cause it could be very cold or very, very hot. Thankfully, it did not get lava hot for me. I was told it could get that. Alright. I was like, how would you be able to determine those temperatures? Like, if it got lava hot, wouldn't that, like, melt your thermometers or something? And, like, oh, no. See, we can tell how it feels based off the heat or the cold radiating off the cup. That's how we know how hot or cold it gets. Like, oh, you can feel that? Like, oh yes. How we can avoid having lava hot drinks. Right? Because it is not safe to have a drink that's as hot as lava. So, if they determine that it's too cold or too hot, they'll re-swirl it to get a different temperature. One that's just right. One that's not dangerous. So, yeah. Those were some of the foods that I tried. Now, I gotta say, this was certainly a fun time trying some foods that the Grelzons eat. I can't wait to try foods that, that are on the planet Nexora. I can't wait to try foods that other species eat. If you want, I could do another video like this. I could, show you some more foods that they eat. I do plan to do other videos like this to explain how other stuff around the ship works, in the future. But, you have now been taken on a culinary journey in space, learning about some of the things the Grelzons eat. So, yeah, I'd love to hear your thoughts about what you think of some of the things we talked about. Let me know if there's any that you'd eat, or you'd be, willing to try. But anyways, I'm Space Pilot Mr. Cool Guy. And since this is a special transmission, let's just say something special. Don't be afraid to try new things. And as always, when you are done cooking, please remember to turn off your stove. You wouldn't want to burn your house down. So, for now, bye-bye.